Very good evening to everybody and welcome to tonight's On the Sofa. Very lucky to have Colin Gordon on with us tonight as our special guest, and we will get Colin on any moment now. Just a couple of things from our side. Fans Forum, which is Wednesday the 16th of August. We still have tickets available for that. A £5, all of which is going to charity, which is our Derby Rimmer Foundation charity. So if you want to book a space on that, please visit our website, www.stfc-osc.com, and book your places for that. So that's Wednesday, the 16th of August, 7 p.m. start. And also we need to say goodbye to two of our players who have left us in the week. So we say goodbye to Tommy Adeloyd and Ronan Darcy, who has gone off to pastures new. And we welcome Liam Kinsella in. So hopefully a few more by the end of the week as well. So let's get Vic on now. Hi, Vic.
Evening, Chris. Hiya. You all right?
Yes, I'm good. Enjoyed Saturday.
Very much so. Great win, especially living in Devon. It was a marvellous trip back here. And never mind Plymouth Argyle. Never mind. There's a long way to go and see.
No, it's made me a lot more optimistic for the season now, seeing that. It's good. The 3 goals that went in were good ones. So
yeah, I thought we played very well. And, if that's the style that we're going to play throughout the season, that's fine with me. SAS travel, of course, it all kicks off on Saturday, the brand new Football League season. Colchester United away is the first match of the new campaign. As you'll be aware, there are traffic problems on the A12. So therefore, the SAS travel are leaving at 8 a.m. on Saturday morning from the county ground because of those travel problems. And tomorrow night, they're open for phone bookings only. Colchester and Peterborough United are available for you, should you wish to travel to those particular venues. Just very limited number left for both. So if you want to go to either of those two, then 7 o'clock tomorrow evening, phone bookings only. Thank you very much. So there you are. It's your SAS travel news for this week.
Brilliant. And also just a reminder that Forest Green and Wrexham tickets go on sale tomorrow morning at 10 to people who have the amount of loyalty points that are needed for those. And then after SAS travel will be announcing when they go on sale for the travel as well. Okay, so shall we get Mr. Gordon on?
Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening, Chris. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay. And apart from I nearly forgot this because I was watching the cricket. So apologies.
Good job. I sent a little reminder, wasn't it?
Just a bit, yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so I'll leave you then, Vic, with Colin, and I will speak to you later. Any questions, please ask, and we'll put them through to Vic as and when. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much indeed, Chris. Yes, indeed. I was thinking we might have to delay this till 7:15, and then Mr. Broad did his thing. I mean, as we were saying just now, a 6 with your last hit and a wicket with your last ball in Test cricket, that's the way to go out, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was enthralling, wasn't it? It was great to watch. Brilliant atmosphere.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to go to one of the days at Edgbaston. That was gripping enough, but the whole thing's been madness, hasn't it? It's just been, if it was a football match, it would be a 4-4 draw with a final goal in the last minute, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. Yeah, it's just been, it's just captured the whole imagination of all of the country again, which is they actually seem to do all the time. But it's what a great finish, and if we could all bow out that way, it would be lovely. But,
it would be great. I mean, as a sportsman, you've got to admire actually the competitive spirit of both teams, haven't you? Because it was a hard fought, but you kind of felt there was a lot of respect in there as well.
I think when people at the top of their sports, people do respect each other more, don't they? I think that people get to the top of their sport because they endeavour to work as hard as anybody else, if not harder, and you respect that. And you could see that with both sets of players. Although there's been a bit of controversy throughout the series with 1 or 2 incidents, and certainly one at Lord's, but that seems to be a mutual respect there, which is great to see.
Yeah, fabulous. Right, we're going to get onto your Swindon career in a little while. Just behind me, you might notice a shirt that the style of which you wore during your playing days at the town. And as I was telling you a little earlier on, you've got this magazine, I think, haven't you? The souvenir edition, Colin Flash Gordon, harder to come by. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
And if I remember rightly, you were on the front cover of a cassette that I helped to produce way back in 85, 86, a souvenir cassette.
I have that as well, Vic.
Marvellous. Good to know you still got it.
Yeah, my dad obviously passed now, but my dad was an avid collector of souvenirs. So, I still have that tape as well.
Fabulous.
Do you know that shot went about 5 miles over the bar? So it looked great, but the end product wasn't, let me tell you.
Yeah, but to be fair, at the bottom of the picture, it didn't say the shot went 5 yards over the bar. So you're okay.
No, it didn't. No. At 5, it was 55, I think. It hit the roof of the town end, but there you go.
Marvellous. Now, let's talk about how you started in football, because it's an odd route in for you, wasn't it? It wasn't the traditional, coming up through the youth ranks. How did it all start for you?
I was a non-contracted player at Wolves when I was younger, but I went through the non-league route. I played for many teams locally, and then I was at Albury United when I think Bert Head spotted me playing for Albury United at Banbury, and I must have impressed him. And I think then Lou Macari came along in the week when we played at Willenhall. And although we got beat 4-1, I think I scored, and they invited me down for a trial. And it was a match in the old combination, the reserve league, and we played against Reading at home. And I did okay in that, and they asked me to come in for a month, and the rest is history. We played a midweek reserve game at Portsmouth. I scored again, and I was on the bench for the first team that weekend while I was on trial. It was the coldest day in history. I remember.
It was Rochdale away, wasn't it?
Yeah. Gary Nelson got hypothermia. Lou came off after about 20 minutes because it was too cold for him. I went on and scored the winner, and then the rest is history. So it was a complete change very, very quickly from coming in for a month's trial. I think within a week I'd signed a 2-year contract, and so just absolutely delighted to get the opportunity, and loved my time at the club, and made some great friends to this day. Still got great friends that the relationships were built then.
I was in the press box that day, and it was in the old days of dial telephones.
Yeah.
And it was so cold, I couldn't actually dial the telephone. It was horrendous. And as you said, Gary Nelson got hypothermia.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, what an introduction to Football League. I mean, but you obviously, you were all right. I mean, you couldn't see the hills. You couldn't see anything, could you? It was awful.
No, but you got to remember, I'd come from non-league, so I still thought it was very glamorous. Playing at Rochdale was very glamorous. So, no, it was absolute dream come true debut for me. It was the days of one sub as well. So to be on the bench, to get the chance to be on the bench was just amazing. And then for it to drop the way it did, I think it was from a corner. I had a header, and I think it hit a puddle and just managed to squirt over the line. I don't think it even reached the net. But it was a great start, 1-0 win, and off and running.
How did you, coming through the non-league route like you did, if you could sort of say similar to Charlie Austin, the way he did it, but I guess, coming through that, it makes you appreciate the jump up a little better, doesn't it?
It does, because you want desperately to be a professional footballer, and you think that all your chances are going to go. And I was 21, so you're thinking, that has my chance gone now? Have I got to look at, maybe a career outside of the game, outside of what I want to do? So, yeah, it is a different approach for sure. But there's a lot of players, Charlie included, a lot of players that have come through that route. Chris Smalling. There's a lot of players that, even Jamie Vardy, who I represented, that I think that they're hungrier because they felt that they'd missed their chance. And I just get the impression sometimes with young kids that they get a little bit too much too soon, and they don't realise how lucky they are, and therefore they don't want to work as hard at it. And I wouldn't put that against most lads who come the non-league route. You have to work hard at it, and you appreciate every minute of it. So I wouldn't change it, if I'm honest, Vic. I think that it certainly made me more determined to succeed.
Yeah. Now that season you did all right. I think you were leading goal scorer, weren't you, in that first season, which is not bad when you made that step up. How did you find the training? Because the players that we've talked to about their transition when Lou arrives, and how was it?
It was all right first year, Vic, to be honest. It wasn't as bad as it was second, when Lou decided we were going to be the fittest team in the history of the game. So the first season, myself and Peter Coyne we were lucky, because Lou would give us an extra day off and things like that, and it wasn't as tough. I enjoyed the training because I just everything about being a professional footballer I absolutely loved, because I never thought I'd get the opportunity, so I was never going to complain about it at all. So training first year, and Harry was there to start with, and I know there was sort of an acrimonious split between Lou and Harry halfway through, Harry Gregg, but Harry was brilliant for me, and I was so disappointed when that there was a split between the two of them, because he worked so hard with me after training on extras and things, and we used to go away, and Gary Nelson would whip some crosses in, and I'd be finishing with Scott Endersby after training and things, and so I just loved that side of it. I really did. And then the second season, well, that's a different story.
Well, we're going to get onto that second season in a minute. This is from Anthony. He says, great lad, Colin. Used to bump into him in Old Town or Bubbles nightclub on a Saturday night. Does he remember getting me on the pitch from the terraces in goal, and Chris Ramsey and him taking penalties against me at a few away games? I remember Chester and Scunthorpe. Would never happen these days.
It wouldn't happen these days. We got battered at Scunthorpe, I think, but Chester we might have won. No, to be honest, that way was a little less organised in warm-ups in those days. I remember it was optional whether you went out or not. I would love to go out, because it was just like being a kid in a sweet shop, being able to just smash the ball into the net, and that was part of my warm-up. Rams always fancied himself as a striker anyway. So but it was great. I can't remember that, but it's brilliant to be reminded of it. And
6-2, I think it was 6-2 at Scunthorpe, if I remember, on a Friday night. Yeah, it was horrendous.
Absolutely, not great fun, that. And then with regards to nightclubs, I have no idea what he's talking about.
Lou Macari would never check in all the nightclubs in Swindon, would he?
Not at all. No.
So what do you remember of that strange Easter? Because there was that Easter, of course, where Lou and Harry Gregg were both sacked.
Yeah.
And then, not to be too biblical about it, Lou was reinstated about 3 or 4 days later. It was an odd time, wasn't it?
It was a very odd time for the players, because I think all of the players absolutely loved both Lou and Harry, and we didn't actually feel the friction that there was obviously there, but we didn't really feel it. And I was just enjoying life as a professional footballer, so I didn't really get involved in the politics of it all. But I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but I was delighted. We went to Lou's house, all the players, and we sat with Lou, and he kind of talked us through it. And we just, look, Gaffer, we want you back, and anything we can do to get you back. But then it became apparent that perhaps they wouldn't come back together, which for myself and Coyne in particular, we were close to Harry as well. And so it was a bit of a blow. But obviously, I'm delighted that Lou came back, and and good for Swindon Town's history that Lou did come back. I suppose that that we went on to so many good things, or the team went on to so many good things as well with Lou at the helm.
Yeah, an extraordinary time. Mark says, did you have an initiation song? I mean, I don't know if that happened in those days, did it?
It didn't happen in those days, but there were a lot of initiation ceremonies that, that went on with that group. It was just a brilliant group of people and a brilliant group of players. We had our own, we had our own fun, and I just felt that players in that era were a lot closer to the fans than they are now. And you know, we didn't earn any more than the average man in the street at that time, and I don't think we were regarded as any different to the average man in the street. We're just fortunate enough to be wearing you know, the red shirt on a Saturday afternoon, and that was the only difference. So we would go to the pubs, as you know, and we'd meet with most of the fans on a regular basis. So with regards to initiation ceremonies and what went on within the group, we had a lot of characters, and so there were a lot of things happening at the time.
So I think it's fair to say with Coyne, he also joined from non-league, of course, from Hyde, didn't he? But he'd been kind of like through the Man United route, all that kind of thing. So he'd seen the ups and downs of it. I mean, he was got a hat trick in a schoolboy international. He was like hailed as a new star at Man United.
Yeah.
But to come to Swindon and do what he did said a lot about him, I think, didn't it?
Yeah, he's a brilliant lad as well. He was you know, he was extremely talented, and a great lad. You know, and he was an avid tea drinker. You know, so he must have had 8-10 cups of tea a day. We lived together for a year, and I really, you know, just he helped me settle in. There's no question. But yeah, because he come from the same background, we kind of had both the Coyne was probably, like you say, more of a roller coaster. He'd been up in the heights and then he'd gone into the depths and then he'd come back again, and he was absolutely loving life as well. So no, I really enjoyed my time with Coyne.
Extraordinary haircut too, if I remember right.
Absolutely right. Yeah. It
was a David Bowie-esque.
Yeah.
Pete Lango, who you might well know as a junior at the time at the club, the Flash always had his tongues rolled over on his boots, even looked good in training.
Yeah, I remember it well, but I was so pleased to get a pair of boots provided. So it was nice. We still had to look after them properly. Well, actually, I think Mark Hughes looked after my boots going way back, and he was worth a tenner at Christmas. He looked after them really well. So yeah, I did manage to get them folded over on my Nike TM pose, and I think then I had a pair of Adidas as well. I managed to get the tongues to roll over on those as well. Yeah, always trying to look the part, even though I probably didn't play the part most of the time. Trying to look the part anyway.
I mean, sponsorship's a big thing nowadays. Of course, as you know, you work in the agency business, so you know all about that. But were there sponsorship deals in those days, or how did it work?
No, not at all. No, it didn't. It was we used to go down to the sports shop at the bottom of the road, and you know, we used to get a couple of free pairs a year. It was not much more than that. A lot of times you played what you trained in, you know. So it was you just had to look after them properly. The club did provide them, but they weren't very keen on providing too many pairs.
That was Dougie Woodman's shop, I think, wasn't it?
It was Dougie's shop. Yeah, it was Dougie. Yeah, Dougie used to sit there, and you could go down and have a cup of tea with him and a chat, and he'd sort your boots out, but it wouldn't be that regular, that's for sure.
So that first season, you did finish as leading goal scorer. I mean, that's quite a good leap for you, isn't it? I mean, how pleased were you with that first campaign?
I was very pleased. I think because it was the enthusiasm that I carried through. I remember, I think I scored a hat trick at Hereford, which, you know, I really enjoyed because my auntie was over from America. All the family were there, and that was a great day for me personally. But it was nice. I had a good return because I didn't really start playing until November, did I? So it was a late start for me. So to get that amount of goals was very pleasing. But we went on an unbelievable run, and you know, had we had playoffs, then we would have been in the mix. But we didn't manage it. So you know, it was a great experience personally. But I think the year after, when we actually swept it all before us after a terrible start, was probably more rewarding.
Yeah, you finished 8th, I think, in that year, that first year, 84-85. Yeah. Lou, of course, had picked up an injury, which meant that was pretty much it for him, wasn't it? But let's get on to that second year then, because as you said, it wasn't the greatest of starts. If I remember rightly, had you lost to Torquay on the Friday night, you'd been bottom of the fourth division.
Bottom of the league, yeah. We had a poor start, and I remember that game against. I think we played Exeter, didn't we? And I think and Colin and I scored, and you know, managed to sort of turn the season. We started to then get a bit of confidence, But no, it was a very poor start. But then the points total that we managed to put together for the year was pretty exceptional, considering.
It was extraordinary. Kenny Allen came in, of course, in goal, and that was a big change, wasn't it?
It was big in every sense of the word. Yeah, big character and a big lad. Yeah. But he's a great character. But now Kenny came in. Scott left. I thought Scott was an extraordinary shot stopper, as good as anybody has ever seen. But he wasn't. Didn't have the stature of Ken. And I think Lou wanted someone to fill the goal. I think we looked at Jake Findlay first, and then Ken came in afterwards. But I thought Scott Yensby was a tremendous goalkeeper and a tremendous shot stopper. I mean, some of the saves he made were absolutely outstanding. But Ken was a great, it was typical for us. Lou was looking for building with size, and someone would dominate and command the box, and Ken came in and did that.
I always remember one save at Northampton he made on a filthy Saturday afternoon when he just tipped it over. It was a magnificent save when you won 1-0, and it was like, goalkeepers win matches as well as strikers, don't they, with this?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. Top goalkeepers for championship winning teams always produce the saves at the right time, don't they?
So when that sort of sticky start happened, then Lou started to reshape the team. You mentioned that the training in that second year kind of stepped up. How did it step up?
I remember when we come back from the break, the council, in their wisdom, had decided to build blooming athletics track, and we nearly wore it out. Lou decided we were going to be the fittest team ever, and we were. It was relentless. It was absolutely relentless. Lou didn't think that running you till you absolutely threw up on a Friday was going to affect your performance on a Saturday. And what he did, he put the fittest team together without question, the fittest team that I've ever seen. But he created a bond between the players because we all had to go through it together, and we were all suffering. We did run unbelievably hard, and it held us in good stead for the latter stages of the season and saw us all the way through that season. But no, Lou's training methods then were, if you saw a ball, you were very lucky. It was run. And I think at one stage they stopped us running on the 2 inside lanes on the athletics track because we were actually wearing it out. And so, I didn't have any worries about going down to Dougie's to get new boots that season because I wasn't wearing them out in training. I was only wearing out my running shoes in training. So it was, but look, I wasn't a big fan of it at the time, but because it was hard work, but it didn't half prepare us well we felt like we could run over any team. I remember Chris Kamara joined us halfway through, maybe, I don't know whether it was halfway through, but sort of during that season from Brentford, and he thought he was fit. And I remember he threw a right tantrum because he couldn't get in the top 6 in that with regards to fitness. He just couldn't believe it. He'd been the fittest and most able everywhere he'd been, but he couldn't get in the top 6 in our group because you'd never seen fitness like it. It was. But to be fair, a lot of the times in the warm-ups in particular, Lou would take us for a mile around the track quick, and it was quick. And that was a warm-up. And then we do the 400s, the 200s, the 100s. After that, we would have held in any athletics meet. I think we would have been up there as well, I think, at the time.
Yeah, we had Dave Bamber on here a few weeks ago, and he was saying about the 400 meters runs because they seem to be quite legendary amongst you players. It seemed to be something.
Bamber was an unbelievable athlete as well. You got that once he got into his stride, he was, and we'd have had a hell of a 4x4 relay team, that's for sure. And
you probably would have won that as well that season. You probably would have done, wouldn't you?
Well, to be honest, I was quite pleased that I was up there in that. I could get up there because running was never one of my strengths. But I was just, at that stage with Lou, we all felt invincible.
I always remember one goal that you scored in October of that 85, I think, at Chester. Yeah, and it was a game I came away from thinking, do you know what? This is a team that can go up.
Yeah.
I mean, what was the feeling around then? Because if you remember, you lost at Hartlepool on the Saturday.
Yeah.
Then, of course, you had a milk cup tie at Sunderland with the
Yeah.
famous army camp. It all started to come together then, didn't it?
Well, I was suspended against Hartlepool, if I remember, and then we played Sunderland, and we stayed up. I think we played Sunderland, and then we played Hartlepool, didn't we? Because I remember Lou, we stayed up, and I got a dead leg. I had a clash with Bob Boulder, the Sunderland keeper, and I had a dead leg, and Lou made me go over my short height in the North Sea because that was apparently, he said, that's what Jock Stein used to do for dead legs, and so you're going in the North Sea. So I was out there in the brownest water you've ever seen, and let me tell you, I had to go in deep enough that it did affect other areas of my body, but to be fair to him, I got fit for the Saturday because he made me go in the North Sea. And then we went on this unbelievable run. The Chester game, I remember Lou and I, at that stage, we had a few run-ins, personal run-ins, and he was screaming at me to get far post, and I think it might have been a near post corner, and I got across the near post and finished at the near post. And I remember giving him a few choice words for telling me what to do, and we were having issues at that time. So I remember that goal well, but I think it just set us on the way, because Chester probably were our main rivals for that season, if I remember rightly.
Well, that's proved later on in the season, of course, when that memorable night when promotion was clinched. Then you went on that run. I was looking it up today, 17 club records.
Yeah.
17. And of course, the record number of league points as well. I mean, what was it like in the changing room through that?
Do you know what? People won't believe me if I tell them. We were so relaxed. The biggest priority for the lads at that stage was making sure our bets were on, because we'd had this unbelievable culture because of Lou. I remember us arriving at Tranmere one time and running. We were late. We run straight off the bus because we wanted to see a race at Chepstow or something. That we didn't even go in the changing room. So it was a group of people that were so confident and comfortable with each other that didn't think that anything would faze us, and with an unbelievable confidence. So, I remember, obviously we had the bookies in the stand, if you remember, at the county ground at the time, and we're still sending apprentices down to put bets on at 2:45. So, but that's the atmosphere that was created. Nothing fazed us at that time. We'd socialise together. We'd be out in the week together. We're a group of young lads that enjoyed each other's company. We tried make sure that Lou couldn't find out where we were, because he had his spies all over town. But what he created was a bond between a group of lads that felt invincible, I suppose.
How influential was Colin Calderwood as captain?
The Fridge. Fridge and I are still good mates. I was with him last week because obviously he's at Northampton now, and I represented him through the rest of his playing career and a lot of his sort of managerial stroke coaching career. So I'm still very much in touch with him. I remember Lou asked me at the end of the first season who was the most difficult centre half I'd played against, and it was Colin, playing for Mansfield, and he was only young. He was a year younger than me, and I just found him impossible to shake off, impossible to get away from. He was an inch or two smaller than me, but I couldn't beat him in the air. It was just it was a slog. And so I just said Colin Calderwood's the best I played against, and he went and got him. And next thing I know, Cole's in the same digs as me, and we just built a very, very close friendship that's lasted from then until now. We're just very close friends, and he was an amazing character, an unbelievable winner, but he never left any stone unturned to be as good as he could be. I wish I'd have had 5% of his desire, because I'd have done 10 times better. He's a guy that was trusted to man mark the Ronaldo, not the one that's playing in Saudi Arabia now in the World Cup, because of his concentration levels. And he wasn't quick. He would work so hard on his sprinting every day after training. He's the fittest guy that you'd ever come across, and he put the most determination that I've ever seen in a professional footballer to get the best out of the talents he was given. The rest of us wasted a lot of talent that we were given. Colin got absolutely everything out of himself. And so for a young captain like him, and he was probably one of the youngest in the team, he probably was the youngest in the team, nobody questioned whether he should be the leader or not. He was absolutely our leader.
And of course, he came back from serious knee injuries as well to prove that determination too, didn't he? He had very serious cruciate injuries.
He didn't have the operation, so he decided not to. Now, to do that, that means that you have to be absolutely dedicated to your program to make sure that you can play the game. And I went through that with Cole, because obviously at that stage, at this last stage of his career, I was representing him. I was no longer playing myself, and I just saw that unbelievable desire. And but there's nobody that ever played with him has got a bad word to say about him. There's no one ever played with him doesn't absolutely respect him for what he is. He's just a brilliant person, a brilliant leader of men.
Yeah, you mentioned that World Cup match, the opening one of France '98, if I remember rightly, yeah. Scotland against Brazil.
Yeah.
And you think back to when you first saw him playing the 4th Division for Swindon, you think, boy, that's not bad. Saint-Denis, the World Cup opening game, that's pretty good, isn't it?
It's the hare and the tortoise, for goodness sake. Where would he finish in a sprint with Ronaldo? But his concentration levels never to let that guy get away from him. He's the perfect person to trust. Just an inspiration, I think, for anybody who played with him.
I remember him scoring a goal at Cambridge whilst he was concussed, and he didn't know he scored. Incredible.
For the rubbish he talked, you thought he was concussed all the time.
Somebody had to tell him he'd scored, which was unbelievable, really. You had 6 successive away league games, and one I always remember was at Rochdale, when, going back to Rochdale, you were trailing 1-0 and then got 2 goals in the last 15 minutes or so. And that goes back to what you were saying, the incredible fitness of the team.
I remember that I think I scored a penalty that game, and it was ankle deep. The pitch was ankle deep, and we were still running all over them, and never ever felt like we were going to lose the game. That's the thing, just that belief that we had. But 6 away games. So I think at that stage we had a really tough winter, and I think the Shrivenham Road stand cast a shadow over half of the pitch, so we couldn't get the frost out of the ground. So that's why we played 6 away games on the bounce, and but it didn't faze us. The only thing it phased was Lou, because on a Monday we played a Monday night at Stockport.
Yes,
and of course Lou got nothing for us to bet on. So, he used to put the book up for the lads when we were travelling. So I remember, Crafty, he got the bus to turn up at a service station. He bought a tube of Smarties and made us all bet on what the letter was on the top of a tube of Smarties. and he didn't even give us 25 to 1 on what the letter would be. He only gave us 20 to 1. So we all had a $5 on it. And then, so even though he would make a $5 on that, or £6 on that, it's just typical of Lou. So that was it for that game. When we normally travel, he would put, it could be the horse racing, it could be anything, and he'd have a book, and all the lads would have a bet with him. So I remember that the Stockport game was a Monday night, but even then he was creative enough to create a book on something. So
wow.
Yeah.
Smarties tops, eh? Who knew?
Smarties, yeah.
So that 6 away wins is sort of confirmed. And then another one I always remember was at home against Burnley. Now, Swindon against Burnley, for goodness sake. If we were playing Burnley now, we'd be absolutely delighted.
Yeah.
But of course, that was 14 consecutive home wins.
Yeah.
And it was, ironically, of course, on the 15th of March, one of the great dates in Swindon Town history. What do you remember that you scored? What do you remember about that day?
It was a tough game. They were a good team. I think Vince Overson was the centre half that day, and Vince and I were teammates further on down the line at Birmingham City. I scored I think it was a near post header, diving header, which was a nice goal. But we were so tough. Bams was flying at the time. We were a tough team to come up against then. We didn't think we were ever going to lose, certainly a home game. So it's amazing records, aren't they, really, Vic, when you think about it?
Phenomenal, yeah.
So again, we didn't feel like we were going to lose. just basically ran teams into the ground.
Yeah, there you go. Look, there's the squad. What a magnificent squad it is too. I'm just trying to find the records actually, because they're just ridiculous. You know, they just go on and on and on. And at the time, you must have known you were breaking records.
Not even thought about it. Talk about keep your feet on the ground. The manager never allowed us to even think past the next game. So we just didn't. It's just nice when those things, are broken and people seem to tell you about it. No one says to you, "Oh, if you win this week, you break a record. Or if you do this, it's never been done before." It's just we need to go and get 3 points, and it was relentless.
It sort of went a bit wrong for you towards the end of the season, though, didn't you? You got injured, and
I got a chest infection that I just couldn't shake off. Which disappointing really, because I missed all the festivities. Really, I missed a couple of big games, and I had an X-ray and there were shadows on my lungs. I just got a very heavy chest infection that just, and probably because we did work and train and we it was only my second season and I'd only had one pre-season, so it might have just been a bit a bridge too far for me. But at that stage, Charlie Henry was absolutely flying, and I still got a lot. I think it was plus 40 plus games that I managed to play. But no, I just missed the business end, and I came back and I had a couple of got on the bench for a couple of games. Certainly the Mansfield game away when we got promoted, I was on the bench for that, which is nice to be on the bench, but you dearly wanted to be on the pitch, and the Chester game, I missed that as well, if I remember as well, which was disappointing. So, but no, it just all caught up with me a little bit at the end, and I just couldn't shake this chest infection that which would allow me to sort of complete a game.
People often talk about squads and how many people you need, but we should also remember in that year, of course, you had a tremendous milk cup run. We mentioned Sunderland, haven't we?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But there was a fabulous win over Sheffield Wednesday, and the aforementioned Peter Coyne with that wonderful, he went down my head, down my ear, off my shoulder, into the back of the net. That kind of. It was a wonderful moment, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, I remember we had a great run. Sunderland away was a great win, and then we went to Ipswich and and I played against Butcher and Osman, and I thought, wow, well, that might be a different. Muren and Tyson were playing, and I thought, wow, yeah, okay, fair enough. They did for us that night, that's for sure. Our cup heroics were over that night, but we did that. We had a good run in that, so we did play a lot of games that season for sure.
Yeah, 6-2. Or was it 6-1? I'll quickly mention it. Yeah, 6-1. Now, Mark Jeffrey says, what a team we had then. I think everybody would agree with that. Nicky Coleman, young fullback on loan from Millwall, played 13, scored 4. Now, you see, this is it. People like Paul Roberts, Nicky Coleman coming into the side. Yeah. Unsung heroes in many ways. But my goodness me, what a part they played.
Yeah, Nicky Coleman was great. Robbo was just, my goodness me, the most larger than life character. You got Chris Ramsey and Paul Roberts in the changing room. It's not going to be quiet. It's just not going to be quiet. But he was so funny, and that's what we had. We had an unbelievable group, and we had so much fun, and there was so much humour around at that time. But Lou had got this great knack of identifying people and characters that just drove the dressing room, and where he pulled out a Paul Roberts from, no one knows. And I mean, we used to have bets on what time Chris Ramsey was going to turn up to train, and Lou was never going to find him. He just loved the idea that it was just Rams. The rest of us are all there, changed and ready to go, and Rams would stroll in with his Walkman on, and like it wasn't a care in the world. So he did find some right characters, and Nicky was a young lad that he did a great job for us. I remember he scored some important goals for us as well.
Yeah, fabulous. Elaine says, let's hope the new manager can get his team super fit and win the league like we did under Lou. I mean, it's easy to run away with the idea that it was just the fitness, but it was a bit more than that, wasn't it?
It was, but when it came down to that side, Lou had his ideas on how the game should be played, and the fact is that we were fit for a purpose, because we were fit to overrun teams, to press. you know, the modern terminology, press from the front, then, well, look, we did. We got after teams, and it was all of our jobs to get at their back four and their fullbacks as quickly as possible and put pressure on the ball and not let the ball in our half. And as soon as we cleared our lines, we were up to the halfway line, play the game in their half. There was a method to what we were doing, but to do it, you had to be extremely fit. And you know, so Lou got the first part right for sure. But we carried out the instructions, and we had that enthusiasm, that an unshakable enthusiasm to carry out what Lou required, and we did it. And at that stage, I think we had Lou, John Trollope, and Kevin Morris, and that was it. Yeah. That was our staff. And now you have clubs with more staff than players. But you know, and John Trollope at that time took the youth team and the reserves as well. So it was you know, that was the staff. So can you imagine doing that now?
Incredible.
Yeah.
Andy Roden was also in the background, of course, at that time too.
Well, Andy was player coach, but Andy was still very much a player, and he was great with me. Andy, he really was. He was a brilliant captain to start with before Cole came in, and he's just a great guy, you know. But you know, he kept my feet on the ground because he could see my head swelling at times, and he was he sort of made me toe the line in no uncertain terms.
You mentioned Kevin Morris, the late Kevin Morris, of course. What a part he played too, didn't he?
Kev was a unique character. He was Lou's eyes and ears for sure, but he was also fair. You know, he was fair. He would mark your card, gaffers on the warpath. He'd let us all know if we were getting a bit too close to the line. But because it was a boisterous dressing room, a lot of us would flock down the treatment room and sit in there with Kev before training and have a chat and a cup of tea. But Kev was, he was invaluable both sides, I think, for Lou and for our side as well, because he would let us know whether we were getting close to the edge with the gaffer.
What happened in the following summer then? Because obviously you come to the attention of other clubs.
Yeah.
And I think it was Wimbledon who finally sort of courted you and took you away from the counter account. Big money move too. So how did that come about?
Well, it was a strange one. I got a call from Lou to say, look, we've accepted a bid for you. But Harry called me as well, Harry Gregg, to say, you know, I'd signed for Wimbledon. He said, why didn't you go to Leeds? And I thought, well, because no one told me Leeds were interested. So, and Wimbledon wasn't right for me, and I'd made so many poor career decisions, and this was a major one. And this is where obviously my job and my role now, I wish I had someone to confide in, and wish I had someone to talk to and to bounce things off, because it was too early for me to leave Swindon, certainly with us getting promotion. And seriously, the money between what was the equivalent of the Premier League then and the money we were getting in the fourth division, it wasn't that much of a difference. And it wasn't about the money. I should have been a bit more patient. Leeds would have been a different story. Obviously, with their tradition and everything else, it could have been interesting. But I mean, I didn't even know that they had John Fashanu at that time. So we weren't going to play with two big number nines. Mm-hmm. And although I think Dave Bassett had an idea that he would do at one stage, but it just wasn't the right move for me, and it wasn't the best career move that I made.
Sure. And is that something when you were advising? I know you were quite vociferous about how young players treated, weren't you, a few years ago? And
yeah.
Is that something that you would kind of advise people about now, to think carefully, you know, about the moves that they make?
Definitely, yeah. It's lovely to be courted. It's lovely to be wanted, and it's, you know, but there has to be somebody there to sort of guide you and temper your enthusiasm sometimes, and make you realise that you've still got a lot to learn. I'd only played 2 seasons football at that level, and you know, my goal return was good. I was as fit as I was ever going to be. The team was only going to get stronger, and I think another year with the team and with Lou, and you know, being comfortable in my environment would have been the best thing for me. And it was a mistake, and it set me back, and it took me a long time to actually get back anywhere near the level that I'd achieved or attained at Swindon.
I think I looked at your record, 17 clubs in total. I mean, how difficult is it moving around from club to club like that? Some loans, some permanent.
Yeah, loans are an accepted part of it, and loans sometimes to get fitness, or loans because you're not playing. That's fair enough. But I think in the modern era now, with 5, in some cases 7 substitutes, there's no need to move. And for a forward, it would have been a lot easier. When I went to Wimbledon, it looked like I wasn't going to start. They're always going to play kind of a midfield, put a midfielder on as the 12th man. So my chances to get games on a Saturday were going to be limited, and my chances to impress were going to be limited. So again, that would have, common sense, someone to just bounce that off, and not having someone like Harry around. Believe it or not, Harry would have said, "What are you doing? What are you thinking about?" But I didn't have Harry there at the time because of the of what happened with Lou and Harry, but just having someone there that's seen it and done it, just to advise me that, but I made a lot of decisions that way. They want me, okay, I'll go, and really I should have sat it out and seen it through.
Anthony's just reminded me about Brian Wade, of course, Badger Wade, and now that was a player. Yeah. I mean, what an incredible! He was at Trowbridge, like you, in non-league, coming to Swindon's team. He made quite an impression, didn't he, Brian Wade?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. He was rapid, strong, powerful, bull of a man. He got mercifully ripped by the lads because of his very West Country accent and his the way he was at times, how slow he was to pick things up because he'd come from a non-league background. I was fortunate that I grew up around the dressing room. And so I had it to start with, but Brian got ripped a lot. But he was a brilliant lad, brilliant character, and honest as the day's long. He really was, and he did. So he made some huge contributions to the team.
Certainly did. And I always remember he kind of was one of these players who looked as though he loved it every time he was on the pitch.
He loved everything about it. I've never saw him without a smile on his face. He was just a great character and a great lad.
So your playing days come to an end, and then you go into the agency business. But you also went into the club ownership business with Kidderminster as well, didn't you? Goodness me. Yeah. So how did all that happen? The agency, first and foremost. How did that?
When I stopped playing, I had a spell where I worked for my own company. I worked with Lotto, the sportswear manufacturer, and did a few deals for them. Actually signed Wimbledon and Bristol City and Wales, I think, and then I had a spell. I worked for James Gilbert as well at the same time, the rugby ball people who wanted to get into football, and I tried to get the contract for the Welsh FA, and the managing director of the Welsh FA, and I can't remember the guy at the moment, said, "You might be in the wrong job. How'd you fancy working in the agency world?" I said, "Well, I don't like them and never had one." But I went to Washington, to Georgetown, to go and see the big an American group that I ended up working for. Liked the way they approached it and thought that maybe I could make a difference with the experience that I got, and then sort of went on to another company, 19 Management. I sort of took Steve McManaman to Real Madrid at the time. Yeah. We did a lot of big things, a lot of big deals, and then John Colhoun and I started. We met at 19 Management, and then we started Key Sports, and so we were very successful at Key Sports for 15 years. And then we decided to sell, which wasn't, again, the greatest decision I've ever made. But and then one of the even worst decisions I've ever made was to buy a football club. But I suppose you have to go through these things.
Yeah, I guess I always remember seeing the Steve McManaman transfer to Real Madrid and seeing his agent, Colin Gordon. I said, no, not the Colin Gordon, is it? Yeah. Incredible, because that was a big money move, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Unfortunately, that's kind of, that was great. I mean, when I was at Advantage, I managed to recruit some good people and then continue it on. So I always managed to work at the top level of the industry, which was great. But the McManaman thing was a huge experience for me, because I went to see all of the top teams in Europe: Juventus, Inter Milan, AC Milan, Barcelona, Real Madrid. So I was meeting all these teams. Steve was the biggest Bosman at the time, and so it was a great experience for me. And then I went on to some other big deals for 19. So that was it. It put me on the right path.
Sure.
And fortunate being able to work at that level now for all of this career.
Fabulous. Steve says, great headed goal at Rochdale. I seem to remember very wet that day. Wet is an understatement. I think.
Wet,
yeah. So buying a football club, then, I've always thought you might as well go in the back garden, dig a hole and shove your money in it, quite frankly. Is that how it is?
Well, that's the analogy. How do you make a small football in owning a football club? You start with a big one and start with, so it's that's the analogy. Yes. It wasn't about the football club, to be honest. There was Kidderminster still do have a fantastic academy stroke education setup, and the opportunity for me was to enhance that education setup. When I went in, it was taking I don't know, I'll be honest with you, it was taking about 25 grand a year. When I left, it was taking over 600. But I wanted I wanted Kidderminster to be a sports university town, and I got the support from the council to start with, and they were behind me. And then there was some internal politics, and unfortunately, they weren't behind me anymore. And a deal that we'd done with regards to moving a border that would give us a little bit more land value, which would put some serious equity behind the club. That was knocked back by planning, and that really hurt. I had 2 or 3 opportunities to sell, one to a big Indian group, and at that time I decided not to. And then at the end, it just became apparent that Kidderminster wasn't going to change with regards to the way they were it was going to be as a football club. I'm still very close to the Russ Penn and Jimmy O'Connor, the managers there now that I bought them in, and Russ is my best friend's son, so I've known him since he was born. Actually gave Russ a signed Swindon shirt when he was born, to be honest, and wow. I've still got it to this day. And I said to Chris, I've got it in a frame. It's the 85-86 winners team. I'm going to bring it down to a game and give it to the club so they can put it up in the club. So that was initially for Russ Penn, that shirt. So that will be coming down to Swindon if I can get to a game soon when the season starts. So the Kidderminster experiment, I was glad to get out in the end. It cost me a lot of money, but it wasn't really the issue. It wasn't about trying to get them into the league and. For football issues, it was purely about trying to create this sports university, which I thought we had a great chance of doing, but unfortunately it didn't happen. And that was to the detriment, I think, of Kidderminster as a town, because will Kidderminster still be known now as a sort of a failing former carpet town, and it had a chance to become a university town, which, hey, these things are sent to test us, and you take the experience and move on.
Agents, then, do you think they get a bad press, or are there some agents who deserve a bad press? How would you? Because where would you put it? Because it's obviously, agents do their best for their clients. How would you sum it up?
I don't think that they do. If I'm honest, I think that I've been, obviously. If you Google me, you'll find out my thoughts on agents in general. No, I think that there's how do I explain this? I don't believe that most agents are very good at what they do. I think there are a group of people that are, but I think now that the money's so big, I think that there's an entitlement to agents now that they expect to be particularly well paid. I don't like the term super agents because there's nothing super about them. If I could take your average football fan on the journey that I've been on, both in boardrooms and in clubs and throughout the world of football, I think it would open their eyes. And I think it disappoints me sometimes. I think that your job as an agent, I think, is to help your client fulfill his potential, and then all your decisions really need to be based around what is right for your client and for his football career. Because I didn't really have that as a player, I've always felt that was the most important thing to provide for your player, was that you were there for them to mentor and to be a sounding board, and to not lose the eye on the prize is that you want to be as good as you can be with the God-given talent that you've been given. I don't think a lot of people do that these days. They are looking at it as a great way of making money, and football, without doubt, is a recession-proof business. So, it seems to attract the less desirable, unfortunately.
And we're at that time of the year, aren't we, where, players are moving, deals are said to be done. I mean, managers must get frustrated by the fact that, agents are involved and all this kind of stuff. Is there a thought that it might go back to the straightforward manager dealing with the player thing?
No, because it will never happen, and it won't happen, and nor should it, because football is much bigger than that now. I'm a great believer in the right structure. The right structure for me now is a quality technical director or a sports director that sets the tone for the club, that puts the DNA together for the club, and then the head coach works to that DNA, and that's the way it should be. The way that they work with agents is set then within the club. And the one thing that we lack in football is transparency, because at the moment, your average fan, pretty much everybody has no idea what actually goes on in any deal. In this day and age, I don't understand why we have to have undisclosed transfer fees. What does that mean? I don't think there should be anything undisclosed. I think the player's salary should be a matter of public record. The agent's fee should be a matter of public record. The transfer fee should be a matter of public record. And therefore, it opens up scrutiny as to good and bad practice. But unfortunately, if you allow these things to be not a matter of public record, then you're bringing on your own problems, because at the moment nobody knows where things go, and I do. I know who has it, where it goes, and how it goes, and most of it's not very appetizing, to be honest. But so I don't think that anybody should be allowed to say that we just bought so and so from so and so, fee remains undisclosed. Why?
It's fascinating you should say that, because it's something that's discussed much on the social media platforms, and the clubs say it's to protect this and protect that. But
nonsense.
What in the days of, I don't know, when you went to Wimbledon, I think it was 100,000. That's recorded.
Yeah.
So why would they say it's undisclosed? I mean, what is the reason for that, do you think?
Well, twofold. I think that then a club, then if somebody wants to come in, if you've got to go and buy a replacement, no one's really aware of how much you've got for the player, so it helps you in that side. There is no reason. The most successful sport commercially in the world is the NFL, but there is nothing that you can't find out about anything in the NFL. It's the most transparent league business in the world. So if it's good enough for them, it should be good enough for us. There is no reason whatsoever that we're on every transaction, everything involved in that transaction, every penny spent should be a matter of public record. And therefore it gives everybody, and the person who pays their season ticket money and pays for their Sky subscriptions, it gives everybody a chance to have input and say, that doesn't look right, or that's a bit much, or that's not very well done. But it takes away accountability, and we need accountability, and it just doesn't stack up for me at all. But it is what it is. Will it change? I doubt it. Because I'm not sure there's much of an appetite to change, but it should change.
The other side of the coin is, of course, you're hearing about Kylian Mbappe and £249 million or whatever. I mean, it's somebody's only worth as much as somebody's willing to pay, isn't it? I mean, but that's bonkers, isn't it? I mean, Steve McManaman, that was a big transfer fee too, wasn't it?
Was that McManaman? It was free.
Yeah, but there was a lot of money involved. Let's be honest.
No, not really. No, it's just his playing contract. It's just his playing contract. No, with regards to Mbappe, believe it or not, if somebody pays that money, they can actually make sizable money back. But there's nothing wrong with telling everybody exactly what who's getting paid, because at the minute, if honestly, some of the percentages for an agent's fee at the moment, some of them, they could be working out at 25-30% of the deal. Well, that's not right. Your average agent's fee is 5%. So if the public looks at it and goes, well, see, that super agent's just got paid £10 million on that deal, the public are going to start questioning whether that's right or not, and start putting out exterior pressure on the business. And that's the way it should be. FIFA at the moment are doing a lot of work to bring in new regulation, but all they're doing is driving it under the table. All they need to do is to make the game transparent. That's all they need to do, because you're sitting here saying it's 249 million because basically we read that in the newspaper.
Yeah, sure. That's the only reason I know. I don't know any other.
But it's it may or may not be true.
No.
I heard that he got a huge loyalty bonus, but we don't even know what that is, because that's not been made.
Well, I've seen £53 million for that.
Well, yeah, but we just don't know. And and what we're getting now is we're getting celebrities through social media like Romano and these other people reporting on the game, and Guy Balaguer and people like that. They're becoming Guillaume Balaguer. They're becoming celebrities in their own right, just because they think that they've got better information than anybody else. Well, these people wouldn't need to become celebrities if we just made every penny available for the public to see, and it would be so much easier. And then you can justify a player's success or not, or the value or not. Sure. If you open up your books and say, well, commercially on Mbappe we made £1 billion this year, therefore the 250 million isn't bad business, public go, yeah, I can see that. But if we don't make it available for them to actually to make a judgment call, then I think that's wrong. I really do.
Well, you're getting a lot of support here. Kevin says, well said, Colin. Anthony says, big clubs breaking the fair play rules seem to get away with it. Bournemouth basically, he says, cheated, that's his words, getting in the Premier League for the first time, fined almost £8 million. Chelsea just been fined 8 to 9 million. Man City, of course, there are lots of things being investigated at the moment. But let's go back to the lighter side of life, shall we? Because I am fascinated by your views on that, because I read them earlier on, and I just thought, well, do you know what? You make a lot of sense. That's all I can say. We'd all love to know. That's part of being a football fan. So-and-so's gone to so-and-so and he's cost 50,000 quid. You think, oh, that's fair enough. That's a decent deal. We like to know these things as football fans. We do. This is from Paul. Can Colin remember being at a house party at Old Town? I was there. Colin fell over a fence. Next day, I had a call from Lou to ask who was at the party. So I lied.
It's very good of him. I think, I think I can remember being at a party in Old Town. Derek Hall was with me for sure. Dave Cole would have been with me. Rams may have even stayed up because it would have been a Tuesday night. I would have thought after a game, or if we didn't have a game, because we normally had a Wednesday off. So it would have been They were good. They were great times. Great.
Are you glad that mobile phones with cameras weren't around in those days?
Oh God, yeah. It was tough enough because Lou had everybody everywhere. Every publican in Swindon was reporting back into him, and every nightclub owner. So it was tough enough to be 21, 22 in Swindon was tough enough.
Fabulous.
But the one thing we do know is that we'd whatever happened, we'd be running it off the next day.
Fantastic. Well, Colin, thank you ever so much for your time. It's been fabulous. And we could go on for another hour because I'm fascinated by your views in football. And, more people should have views like that. We'd all be very much happier if you did. And what we'd love you to do is to come to a game, wouldn't we, Chris? That would be fantastic.
I'll have a chat with you after we go off air about something we've got in the plans. So we'll see.
Cool. I've got the only one I've got. I don't know if you know, but I'm the national team coach for the power wheelchair football team with the FA, and we've got a World Cup in Australia in October. So we've got to go out to we're the current European champions. We're going out to try and win a World Cup in October for England. So, and my son plays in that team as well. So that was probably the highlight of my life. My sporting life was to be. We won the Euros, and I was the head coach, and he was in the team. And to be there singing the national anthem was one of the. It's just the most emotional moments. Looking at the family in the crowd and everything was the most emotional moments I've ever been through. So I can come anytime to Swindon to the county ground as long as it's not in October.
Well, I'll tell you what, we wish you all the very, very best for that.
Thank you.
That is fabulous. So we wish you all the very, very best. And it kind of goes back
keep
to the
an eye
passion.
out for that.
with a passion with Stuart Broad and England cricket team, doesn't it? That moment when you put on an international shirt, no matter what it is.
I never had the chance to do it as a player, but it's a wonderful honour to have. But to have your son in the team as well is just it's very, very special for the family.
Fabulous. We wish you well.
Very proud. Yeah, thank you very much, Colin. That's been great.
Thank
you everybody for watching. We will be back next Monday. Not sure yet what we will be doing, but we will advertise it nearer the time. But as I say, have a good week. See everybody at Colchester who's travelling. Don't forget to go early, just in case. And we will see you next Monday. Thank you.